is that guy?
This guy, it's Joe. Joe Quill's here with you um, on this, uh, sorry, the phone went off and I had the ringer on. So I'm just trying to figure out what was going on here. It's Tuesday. Oh, yeah, Washington scored. Okay, 2-2. I thought it was ready 2-2, but. So welcome in. Joe Quill's here with you, and it is another Tuesday night edition of the show. Going to begin with some breaking news out of the NBA. And forgive me, I'm turning the TV down on my living room. There we go. We do have breaking news from the National Basketball Association. And that is that that James Harden has been traded. Now, I was going to tell you tonight, as I was leading up to the show, I'm like, well, I didn't put it in the notes, but I did have that he wanted out of LA, which I didn't think would happen. Fool me 5-6 times, call me a dope. But what I meant by that was, all right, he's finally getting to play for his hometown team. He's going to want to go there. He's going to want to stay there. But for whatever reason, he wanted out of LA. And I didn't find out about this until last night when it was mentioned in passing when I finally got the Sixers game on my TV. I was like, oh, okay. So he is going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, that move I'm not shocked that James Harden got traded because of the fact that James Harden does not like to stay in one place more than a couple of years. After he went to OKC, he was okay there. Maybe, but then again, OKC, you don't want to mess with what they have there. You don't want to, it seems like the happiest he was in Oklahoma City, even though he left there and he went to Houston. It just seemed like once he got to Houston, he wanted to go somewhere else. After Houston, he went to Brooklyn, I believe, and then he went to the Sixers. The Sixers sent him to the Clippers. He is back in the Eastern Conference, and he is now with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And according to sources, Harden got traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. And what makes this request a little odd to me, just on the outside looking in, because not going to lie, I don't pay too much attention to the NBA about all this. So, I shouldn't be surprised, but, but he ended up getting traded today for a second-round pick. But, the thing is, you were 6-21 at one point. If you're going to bail on the team, you're going to bail when they're 6-21. It's like, oh, bleep this, I'm gone. Instead, you wait until the team is back in contention to make this move. So, the Clippers are now 23-26 after last night's loss to my team, my town, my 76ers. So Harden and the Clippers worked through his exit over the past few days, resulting in a beneficial outcome for both sides. It's a win now opportunity for Harden, who's playing at a high level at 36 years old. And for the Clippers, they get a two-time All-Star in Garland who can help now and in the future. For the Cavaliers, the addition of Harden has the potential to elevate the team's ceiling as they continue to contend for a title out of the Eastern Conference. Seeing what he did with the Sixers, I would say no. Of course, it's going to mean you got two. It says here you're aligning two high-powered, multifaceted engines in Harden and Donovan Mitchell. We'll see how Harden does. So over the past 24 hours, as the trade materialized, the Cavaliers went from 22-1 to 12-1 on DraftKings. So right now, the Cavs lead the Celtics, Spurs, and Pistons in title odds, and are now tied with the Knicks for the third shortest title odds between Denver and OKC. Now, the team called it personal reasons why he didn't play. Yeah, he just didn't want to play. So he was at his home in Phoenix, according to Tyronn Lue. So he's still one of the top engines that can score and distribute 25 points a game, 8 rebounds. But, is he going to be one and done? I mean, like 20, 25 games or whatever's left in the schedule? How are the strip clubs there? I'm asking for a friend for James Harden, because we all know he's a big fan of the strip clubs. But Harden has been durable the past few years. He's played more than 70 games last 2 years. He's on track to do that again this year. And the only thing that's missing from his career is a championship ring. But, but Garland has been hurt this year some because he had some separate toe injuries. The most recent was a grade 1 sprain, but I don't know. The way I feel like this was typical James Harden. And truthfully, if I'm one of the 6 Clipper fans in the country, I say good riddance, because you knew this was going to come. I mean, even though I didn't necessarily think so, because of the fact that he's in his hometown. He's from LA, or I think he's from he played at San Diego State, but you get the idea. So, he played in the area, grew up in that area, but I don't know. But that was the breaking news that came down within the last hour. To me, I'm just amazed how teams still try to trade for him, because it just seems like you're doomed to fail with him. And I'm not saying it because he was here in Philly, but we have firsthand experience in Philly that he didn't want to play here. So good riddance. That's what the Clippers fans are saying. And the Cavaliers fans think they have a shot to win this year. But anyways, got a lot to talk about here beyond that tonight here. Got a Lindsey Vonn update. Got some Hall of Fame updates, because apparently Robert Kraft's not getting in either. Wasn't a happy ending for him. The NFLPA responded to Goodell's comment yesterday about 18 games. There's no guarantee that Michael Penix will be the starter next year. And I got a LeBron James story, which I'm going to wait till the end because I'm going to make you wait for it. But I did have an interesting day today, to say the least. So I'm sitting here. I got my podcast on my little speaker that I've been testing over the last week or so because I'm going on a trip in a couple of weeks, just for a couple of days. So we're only going to miss one show. Oh, excuse me. So I'm sitting here and, living the apartment life, and the alarm goes off. Now, you know the whole story about the boy who cried wolf? Well, I kind of experienced that today because it's like, yeah, somebody pulled the fire alarm again or something like that. Because I think that's what happened the last time the fire department came here. So I'm sitting here and I'm finishing up this one thing I was doing, which, didn't have much left to do anyway. So I'm like, I'm waiting. I was going to peek out and, because it's like, all right, well, because now I think things have changed in terms of the alarm here in my building, I think. Because of the fact that I remember a few times in the past, the alarm would go off like at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And there was a guy that was on the maintenance side who would just turn it off. At least I think that was the case. But Brendan, welcome in. Hope you're doing well out there. So the alarm's going off. Now, mind you, I have this t-shirt on and I have a pair of shorts because I made the plan to not do a damn thing today, which I, didn't last long. I also ran to the store today because I had to, because I was like, crap. So I go, all of a sudden, I'm getting my pants on. I'm changing into my pants. I'm putting a sweatshirt on. I'm putting a coat on because I don't know how cold it is out there because, it's been ice cold here for the last 10 days. And it finally got above 32 degrees yesterday. And I think it was near 40 today. Let's see. Well, my indicator says 36, but that's only because it's my area of the city, not the official temp down by the airport. So I'm getting dressed, and next thing I know, there's smoke down the hallway. I'm like, what the? I mean, I'm getting out. I'm getting out anyway because at the very least, if the alarm was going off, it's just that the sound is there for a reason. And, it is there to get your attention, wake you up out of a cold sleep, all that stuff. Now I was wide awake. So, I just finished my second cup of coffee. I'm ready to run through this wall. So, shit's getting real when you're starting to see smoke. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm getting out anyway because, with the sound of everything, I'm just like, I just don't want to deal with this noise anymore. Because there's no guarantee that the alarm will be turned off until the fire company gets here, or fire department, I should say. So, and then I came back up, or as I'm about to leave, knock on the door. It's the landlord. got a fire in here? No, nothing in here. Okay. Because, the landlord is doing what he should be doing, and that's checking everybody there. I also found out that the apartment across the hall from me still is not filled. Been about 4 or 5 months now. But um, so I ended up um, going outside, and first I went to go out. I was like, oh shit, I forgot my gloves, because I don't know how cold it is exactly, and it's pretty cold, and so I come back up, get my gloves. A couple of firemen come, and the landlord is leading them on. I'm like, and I can hear the guy said, "Did you check over here?" Yeah, I did already. I said, and I'm ready to prove to the firemen that there was nothing going on here. So, um, so there was a fire in my building towards the front of the building. I'm in the very back of the building, so I don't know. I don't know what unit it was. I don't know if it was on the first floor. Um, I don't know if it was my floor. It was probably my floor, but heat, fire rise, heat rises and all that stuff. So there was something going on, and I don't know whose apartment it was or anything like that, but fire department was there, and there, one of the units was on fire very briefly, because I overheard the maintenance head tell the landlord that they had to break into the apartment to get the fire out. So wherever the fire was, it was very small, and the job was, everything that's in this building was fine. So, and that just reminds me, I got to pay my rent here. Here it is. There we go. There we go. Now I can't say I didn't pay it because I even printed the shit up. Um, so yeah, interesting day, and I kind of looked around a little bit today, because the last thing I wanted to do, especially when something like that was going on, where the landlord is there, is like, what apartment, I didn't want to be sitting there saying, where was it? Where was it? You know how you get those nosy neighbors who end up going and telling stories about you all the time, which half the time aren't true and stuff like that. Well, I'm just sleuthing around just to find out which apartment it was, because, I'm just curious, because, how far away was this from me? So it was on the other side of the building. I just don't know which unit. I'm not sure if it was one that I think it was, because it looked like the windows were open, but I don't know. But I mean, I might snoop around after the show tonight, because I got to take trash out again. But yeah, so one of the units went up. Probably some smoldering thing there, because it was all smoke, and you could see the smoke, you could smell the smoke, but whatever it was, and it leads me to think that it wasn't on this floor, because of the fact that the fact that the lingering stink that you have from a fire wasn't here. Now, maybe maybe they started doing whatever. I don't know, but I heard the I heard the I'm not sure if it was the maintenance man to the landlord or the other way around, but they said, oh yeah, they had to break into the apartment because obviously they're not home. They're probably working. So, and but thankfully nobody was hurt from what we know. Um, I noticed that a lot of the firefighters are not that fit. At least they don't look that way. But I'm not bashing the fire department, but it was just weird to see that. And you had 2 or 3 trucks here as well, because I think each alarm has a couple of um, engine companies that come there. But it was just a minor. It turned out to be a minor thing, but um, little boy cried wolf today, little this, little that, but thankfully everybody's okay. So that's what happened in my world today. Hopefully you had a more boring day than I did. I mean, once I got back into the apartment, because I went outside on my own. There wasn't anything like that, but it's like, you know what? I can't stand the noise. I am not doing anything else now, so let me just go outside just to play it safe, And also let me look around to see if there's like one unit that's on fire. You know what I mean? It's like, there's the culprit right there, something like that. But thankfully, everybody's safe here. Nobody got injured. And I have to find out what room that is if I can find it, because I don't think I'm going to find it. Um, I'm sure that they've already put a new door in and whatever, but we'll see. So, so I saw this morning, and I kind of heard it on TV because I think I left the TV on last night. I think, um, or maybe I turned it on because the thing is with me, I always seem to wake up like 6, 7, 8 o'clock, and then I roll back to sleep till about 10. So I went to sleep, and I hear, oh, Lindsey Vonn will be racing this weekend in the Olympics. Well, what I had missed originally is the fact that she is confident she can compete at the Milan Cortina Olympics beginning this week, despite the left knee injury she sustained in a crash 4 days ago. Vaughn said on Tuesday the damage to her left knee was a completely ruptured ACL. Ouch. She also has bone bruising plus meniscal damage. Now, if this was not an Olympic year, if this wasn't her coming back from being retired for 6 years, if it wasn't anything that, if it wasn't anything that came up, if it wasn't an Olympic year, if it wasn't that she was coming back from being retired for 6 years, something like that, or the fact that she's 41 years old, I mean, you don't realize that. I mean, but then again, I mean, she was banging Tiger Woods for a while. She's planning on riding on Sunday, which amazes me. And, the thing is, the issue that she would have, I believe, and if you have either sustained an ACL tear of any kind or a rupture, as she put it. I would think it's more the instability of the knee. So, I mean, but the thing is, when you have a knee injury like that, you're pretty much screwed. But in a lot of what you see here, um, you have a major injury, which is probably going to end her career. Not because it's an injury, but because she is 41 years old. She probably came back for one more Olympics, and the timing could not be any worse because it was the week before the Olympics. So Vonn said today, the knee is not swollen, and with the help of a knee brace, I'm confident I can compete on Sunday. I'm interested in seeing what this knee brace looks like because of the fact that even if you only watch skiing once every 4 years, because we don't have Wide World of Sports anymore. It's Wide World of College Basketball and whatever else comes on Saturdays. You'll notice that these skiers are wearing skin tight uniforms. Well, I'm calling them uniforms, but you get the idea. I don't know how she'll be able to ski down that hill and have any chance of winning. And, here's the thing. The way the Olympics are, and you can bash me all you want for saying this, but the Olympics are the original participation trophy event. Because not only do you get a prize for finishing first, the gold medal, you also get ones for second and third for finishing silver and you get silver and bronze for finishing second and third respectively. So think about it. It is the original participation trophy event in sports. Even though, but the way that the Olympics are, a lot of these smaller countries, even though you could say this more for the the Summer Olympics than the Winter, because the Winter Olympics doesn't have as many countries in it because a lot of these countries don't have a true winter, so they can't develop their winter sports program. Other than Jamaica, because they did the bobsled thing many years ago, and they're going to be running again. But for the most part, the closer you are to the equator, the less of a chance you have of having a Winter Olympics team represented. And, there's anomalies to the rule, like, oh, I'm representing Outer Mongolia because my parents immigrated from Outer Mongolia to the United States, and I can't make the American team, so I'm gonna ski down that hill for Outer Mongolia. I'm making stuff up, but you get the idea. But I don't know. I mean, but what's going to happen. Now, everybody's going to be watching every because it's the Olympics. This only happens once every 4 years. But, now you're going to watch this one race on Sunday because guess what? Lindsey Vonn is going to do, some will say courageous, some will say stupid. I guess there's nothing else she can do with that knee. I mean, she can still fuck up the other knee and everything else in her body. But still, you know. So she added, this is not obviously what I'd hoped for. I knew what my chances were before the crash. I know my chances aren't the same as it stands today, but I know there's still a chance. As long as there's a chance, I will try. Why do I have visions of Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber? At least I think it's Dumb and Dumber. If I'm wrong, let me know. So you're saying there's a chance. I need that as a sound drop, by the way. But so Vonn crashed on World Cup downhill in Switzerland on Friday and ended up in the safety nets because you're going so fast, and if you don't have those nets up to catch these skiers, you're going to end up flying off the mountain. I mean, I'm exaggerating, we get the point, but you're going to crash into some tree and be dead. You're going to be Sonny Bono. Do, 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 you got me, tree. That thing. But so after skiing to the bottom of the course, she was taken to the hospital. She's expected to be one of the biggest stars in Winter Games, which starts on Friday with the opening ceremony. I think hockey is, but anyways. Her first race comes 2 days later in the women's downhill on Sunday. She's also planning on completing in the Super G and the new team combined event, whatever those are. I mean, Super G, it's just a different aspect in terms of downhill racing, but Vonn made a stunning comeback last season at age 40 after nearly 6 years away from ski racing. Skiing with a partial titanium implant in her right knee. She has been the circuit's leading downhiller this season with 2 victories and 3 other podium finishes in 5 races. Including the Super G, Vonn's completed 8 World Cup races and finished on the podium in 7 of them. Her worst finish in those 8 races was 4th. Wait. Would she finish? 4th. Okay. So she's won 3 Olympic medals, a gold in downhill, bronze in Super G in 2010, and bronze in the downhill in 2018. But I think it's crazy that she is going to run. She's going to race. And I'm guessing because this happened so late in the schedule compared to the Olympics, you can't just replace her. I mean, I don't know how the Olympics were, how they became eligible for the Olympics. I'm not savvy on everything, but but you did have a major injury, and I'm imagining that she just says, after the Olympics I'm done. But I don't know how she's going to do this. I imagine that this knee brace is going to prevent her, will keep her from being as aerodynamic as she would normally be, because I imagine this is going to be a bulky ass knee brace. So I don't know what they would, I don't know how she's going to do it, but it's interesting that, that she could be skating on a knee that's completely gone. But I mean, if she can do it, great. I mean, I understand why she's going to run or give it a try, because this is probably her last chance, because she's 41 years old. That's what I'm guessing the reason is for that. But otherwise, no, I don't see her. I don't see her, you know. I mean, after this race, obviously she'll be right to the surgeon, because obviously you got to fix it. I mean, you have to perform surgery on that just for quality of life, I would think, right? But especially the way that they said that she ruptured it. I mean, maybe I'm thinking along the lines of even with an Achilles, ruptured Achilles, But then again, I don't know, but we'll see. Um, I guess we hope for the best and expect her. I don't know. But anyways, enough about that. But the Olympics start on Friday. The Olympic ceremony is Friday. I know it will be Friday evening in the United States. I imagine, and I haven't looked this up, nor do I care to look it up right now because, I'm more worried about other things. I wonder if they're going to show it live like on Peacock, or as I like to call it, the cock. I imagine they would do that, right? I don't know. And also, prayers to Savannah Guthrie. Because she was about to leave for Italy for the Olympics, but had to pull out from covering it because of the fact that her 85-year-old mother was abducted. It was announced yesterday, and some scary stuff. And they've been saying a few different things about this case, where I think they said they found blood at the home, or I'm kind of not keeping too much tabs on, only because, and maybe it's just a really weird and sad story. They said here, and I'm looking at the New York Post here, a trail of blood was filmed leading from the Arizona home of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie's missing mother. Shocking new footage shows. So there's a bloody crime scene. So it's unclear who the blood belongs to, but this is a very sad situation, and I'm trying to keep track of it from afar in the Cliff Notes edition, but it's a very sad thing that happened in Arizona. So prayers to the family, Savannah Guthrie and her mother. She's 84, 85 years old, and once they said she was sharp as a tack, I'm like, this doesn't sound good, but we'll hope for the best for that as well. Also, as we get to more of a sorbet here in a way, even though some will say whatever with this, Robert Kraft also will not be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, or won't be inducted this year. Multiple league sources told ESPN. And why are they leaking this information? Are they leaking this now because, oh, well, Belichick didn't get in, we leaked that, we'll leak. But Kraft did not receive enough votes from the 50-person selection committee to be included in the Hall of Fame in 2026. That class will be announced on Thursday. But the new voting requirements for this year, this go-round, it pit Kraft against Belichick, because one of the things they did this year, they changed everything so that head coaches did not have to wait 5 years anymore. They only had to wait 1 year, because, that was a question I had, but I never mentioned. I was like, well, how did Bill Belichick get, how did he, because, I mean, I can't keep track of everything, but the group that Kraft and Belichick were in, Kraft was one of the 5 finalists among the contributors, coaches, and senior players. Kraft was the contributor finalist, Belichick was the coach, and then Roger Craig, Ken Anderson, and Elsie Greenwood are the players. Now, at first I was thinking, well, maybe Elsie Greenwood gets a job because it gets the nod because he passed away. But then I look, he passed away in 2011 or 2012. But still, I can see, but it'd be interesting to see, because they have to pick one of the 5. And if nobody got the 40 votes, whoever has the most votes gets in. So, but one of the 3 finalists will get in. One of those 5 finalists will get in, along with 3 to 5 minor era players in the group of 15 finalists. So, but Kraft, he showed it didn't bother him because he's more worried about Sunday. He wants to win on Sunday. And, if they win, they're the first team to win 7 Super Bowls. And if they lose, they're the first team to lose 6. I'm hoping for the latter. But, so they say here, Kraft's exclusion should end the speculation that voters' advocacy for Kraft was what kept Belichick out. It's also possible, in the opinion of some league sources, that the voting process contributes to canceling out support that any particular candidate may have gotten. And we all know what he said when the news of Belichick didn't get out. Whatever perceptions about my personal differences between Bill and me, I strongly believe in Bill Belichick's record and body of work, which, even if that is just rhetoric, it's true. You got to look at what he's done, whether it's the fact that, he had Tom Brady for 20 years. Well, Nick Sirianni would be in the Hall of Fame if he had Tom Brady for 20 years. But I digress. So Roger Goodell echoed the sentiments Monday night ad that he thinks Kraft ultimately will be a Hall of Famer. Mike Vrabel said, I just think that it's unfortunate. In my experiences with Robert Kraft, he's more than deserving. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not in charge of deciding when that happens, which is true because this is something that the writers and the alums do, and that's it. So, but here's a crazy stat. Kraft purchased the franchise in 1994. Patriots won a grand total of 225 games. In 22 years since then, 21, 22 seasons, the Patriots have won 374 games, including Super Bowls 30, 36, 39. I'm sorry, 36, 38, 39, 49, 51, and 53. So they did have they've had a good run, and that's the longest sustained dynasty that we've seen in the NFL until Kansas City was slammed shut last year by the Eagles. Um, but um, but the senior finalists, that group of 5 that we mentioned, that's a separate voting pool from the modern era voting, which included 4 players this year in their first year of eligibility: Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Frank Gore, and Jason Witten. Um, so we'll see what happens here. I'm just gonna have to remember to watch that on Thursday night while I'm streaming with you guys, just so I can see who gets in, because one of the senior players are going to get in. Now I have no intel. I just get a funny feeling it's going to be. I get the feeling it's going to be LC Greenwood, even though it wasn't a recent death of his. He died like 13, 14, 15 years ago. So it is, we'll see what happens on Thursday in San Francisco. Roger Goodell also mentioned on Monday that about the possibility of an 18th game. The NFL Players Association made it clear today that the players are not in support of an expanded regular season schedule, which is no surprise. Interim Executive Director David White said at the annual Super Bowl week news conference, or the union's annual conference, our members have no appetite for a regular season 18th game. That's fair. Now, when the union says these following words, you can understand why they said it. They are citing player health and safety concerns that come with the longer season, because the union is there to help you make more money, protect you, and everything else that a union does, even though the players make millions and millions of dollars more than anybody else. So the 18th game is not casual for us. It's a very serious issue. It's something that comes out of negotiations, and nothing will move forward until players have the opportunity to account for all those factors, take that into consideration, and then through negotiations agree or not to the 18th game. I think we won't see an 18th game until the new collective bargaining agreement, and this is probably going to be a sticking point that may derail football, in my opinion, even though we're still 5-6 years away. At least that's my opinion. Now, Robert Kraft, he gets mentioned in this story as well. He spoke about the expanded schedule with certainty in a January radio appearance on Gillette Stadium. He said, I want to tell you guys, we're going to push like the Dickens now to make international games more important with us. Every team will go 18 regular season games and 2 preseason games and eliminate one of the preseason games. And every team every year will play 1 game overseas. I think the international games will wear on the players more. I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see having to go to these far off countries for a game, a neutral site game, is not going to be, I think over time that's the whole mentality of it's going to change. So White and NFLPA President Jalen Reeves-Maben echoed Goodell in saying there hasn't been any formal discussions or negotiations about adding an extra game. Now, I can tell you this from my personal experience with collective bargaining. Even though I was never in the room with management and union, just being on the outside looking in, just being a part of the union and the associates, whatever you want to call us, I can tell you that in a lot of cases, union negotiation, even though it's not formal, as in not as important as a new contract, they're still negotiating little things here and there, whether it's a grievance or something to add to the contract, because you can always add to a contract and say, "Oh, this is the new addendum." That's why they have an appendix at the back of a lot of contracts. So Reeves Maben said, "There's 31 owners. They all have different agendas and opinions on things. Maybe this is a way of them trying to influence. We have not opened up any 18-game discussions. It's not something the players are excited about or really trying to press for. Then we put in a lot of work and we put out a good product out there every year, and it's not something we feel the need for," which is fair. I mean, in a way, do you want to play a game? Like, for example, the Rams are going to be playing a game in Australia. How that's going to fit into the schedule, I don't know. Be interesting to see, but but because it's a point of negotiation, according to White, it's not inevitable. The answer is absolutely not on that. But it's but the Players Association expressed concerns over higher injury rates that come with a longer season. They cited Patrick Mahomes' season-ending injury, Gardner Minshew's injury, Quinshon Judkins had a gruesome season-ending leg injury in Week 16. Lamar Jackson had a back injury. But I think some injuries, they're not necessarily, not all injuries are the same, because sometimes you have an injury where it's because of contact. It's the non-contact injuries, in my opinion. They're the ones that I worry about. But 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 they're also, the union's also concerned about the inconsistencies in international travel as something that we're monitoring as the league continues to expand its international slate. As you know, we have 9 games next year internationally, including Australia, France, and Mexico. Now, the Players Association says it seems arbitrary approach that clubs take to travel, while also acknowledging players excited about playing on the global stage. Some teams fly out early. Some teams fly out the day before. Some will stay near the practice sites. Some will have lengthy commutes for their players. Some will have lengthy commutes for players. After that, travel when they're getting over jet lag, all that. But Goodell wants to have a 16-game international slate in the future where every team will play 1 game internationally. I'm not. I don't like the 9:30 game. I really don't. But especially for games in Europe. The surface of the games are being played on are a concern as well. But the NFL has shown that there's a nearly identical injury rate on artificial versus natural grass. 90% of players prefer to play on grass. The data that the union replied, the data we have to access, do have access to, shows the energy return from a synthetic surface is significantly higher than it is on natural grass, which reinforces what players say from their experiences and from common sense. It's just harder. It's harder on the body. Yeah, I can see that. I know I stood on the turf up at Northeast High School after a game. I was like, wow, this is extra spongy. And, it's to protect the players, but, you can't do anything. I mean, it's the next best thing. Obviously, we're beyond the era of putting carpet on concrete and saying, oh, this is AstroTurf. That there's a reason why it's the reason why we've evolved eventually over time. But now they were also the union was also asked about Acrisure Stadium because they're saying about the natural playing surfaces there. The union added that the upkeep of the fields is just as important as the composition of the surface. They said it's well-maintained grass. Scrubby grass that's full of mud or is hardened by ice or what have you, that's not helpful. It's maintained grass. It's the playing field that's good for players and good for the body so they can play the game that we all love. Also remember, Acrisure Stadium also has the Pitt Panthers playing there 5-6 times a year as well. And I know you're saying, Joe, Lincoln Financial Field has Temple. But I think the Eagles, I think the climate is this much different. So you get the idea there. So, but, I don't think if we see an 18th game, it won't be until 2032. And I think at that point, I think that years of not holding all this stuff will actually, actually saying this over and over again will get drilled to the kids of today. But then again, they'll be used to playing on these artificial surfaces even more. So, your guess is as good as mine. Matt Ryan said today that he would not commit either way to Michael Penix Jr. being the team's starting quarterback. And I think that's fair to say because of the fact Penix is recovering from a torn left ACL, which he suffered last November, and he's expected to be out 9 to 12 months. Well, if it's 9 months, December, January, February, March, 9 months is August, 12 months is November. So you cut it in half and go 10 and a half, he's missing the first month of the season. So, it'd be interesting to see what they do here. And I think Ryan has a point here as well, because the head coach has to make the decision. Ryan said, neither of us are the head coach of the football team. We can't answer your question on that. I think as we start to get into this process and dive deeper into the roster, how it currently stands, where it's going in the future, I think those are the conversations that'll be a part of it. Quarterback's obviously very important, and we're excited about Mike and what he's doing with his rehab. I've been up at the facility the last 3 weeks, and Michael's been there attacking that. He's in good shape right now. We're excited about where he's at, but certainly a lot of discussion for us for the entire roster. But now Kirk Cousins will probably be released because of salary cap considerations. So I think this is more Stefanski having the say in who's going to be the starting quarterback. Also acknowledging, 9 months puts him in August. If it's full 12 months, it's November. So you're looking at different issues here. But Stefanski was very complimentary of Penix in his press conference last week. So, but I think, that seemed like it was more clickbait than anything else because of the fact that it just seemed like it was, I'm not going to make a decision. Like that's the head coach's decision, which is fair, in my opinion. But anyway, so I do want to remind you, this Saturday, also eligible, we'll be looking at Tampa Bay Downs. And we will also take a look at the races from, we'll take a look at the Road to the Kentucky Derby race from Santa Anita. Let me just check one thing here so I can cringe while I do this. Okay, so they have a field of 7. Of course, Bob Baffert has 3 horses in the race, so we'll see what's up with that. That is race 8 on the card, so we'll take a look at that race on Saturday as well as the Tampa Bay races. They have 4 or 5 stakes races. And also, I will announce on Thursday about the Friday card because the races that were postponed on last Saturday from Oaklawn and from Aqueduct come back on Friday. So we'll see what's up with we'll take a look at those races. And at the very least, there'll be articles on those 4 races. It's just a matter of whether or not they go to, it's whether or not I'll do an actual show, but I'll know by Thursday. So, one last story to mention here. So this is going to be a quicker show tonight because, sometimes these nights are like that. I probably should have put this at the beginning, but, I wanted to use the Lindsey Vonn stories, breaking news. So I broke the stories up here because I wasn't planning on the James Harden thing. That came up out of nowhere about an hour before the show started. But the NBA trade deadline is Thursday, I believe. Several teams are considered potential future destinations for LeBron James. Reportedly involved in talks to acquire star-level talent. LeBron is still expected to finish the season with the Lakers, league sources told ESPN on Tuesday. James's longtime friend and agent, Rich Paul, who's the CEO of Clutch Sports, said on his Game Over podcast in December that James would not be seeking a trade and would finish out his record-setting 23rd season in LA. Now, also a reminder, he's wearing this special patch for the last 30-some games of the season. So, but the thing is, it's like an ego thing, in my opinion. But say what you will about that. And on that episode, Rich Paul said about seeking a trade. He's like, no, where's he going to go? Well, part of the thing is LeBron has a no trade clause, and I believe it's one of the very few in the NBA. So you may have 1 or 2 people and especially when we get with the baseball trade deadline, I remind you that all a no trade clause means is if you got a deal to trade me, I want to know what it is ahead of time because I can tell you guys, go kick rocks. I'm not going. Or, okay, I'll go. You want to know where you're going to go before you agree to that. That's all it is. That's all a no trade clause is. Now, some people just say, get their contract, no trade clause. So, but since Paul's statement in December, Lakers have dropped from 2 to 6 in the Western Conference. And also, there was an article published a couple of weeks ago on ESPN that the relationship between James and Lakers acting governor Jeannie Buss have strained. So maybe. But you wonder if LeBron wants out because when he said if he planned to finish the season with the Lakers, he replied, I'm good. whatever that's supposed to mean. Plans beyond the season remain unknown. He said last week he doesn't know if he'll retire this summer or not, but acknowledged the Lakers game in Cleveland very well could be his last in Northeast Ohio. But I think I heard today or yesterday that his second son's in college and may go pro. If I'm wrong, then so be it. But I thought I heard that. But as the trade deadline nears, the Cavs, Knicks, and Warriors, three teams considered plausible destinations for James should he decide to play next season, have all been in the news for their pursuit of big-name players. But now this was printed out and this was posted well before the James Harden trade, because they say on here, if one of those major dominoes were to move, like for example James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo is also on the trading block. James would not be joining them on their new team, league sources told ESPN, at least not before the season's over, if at all. So I think with the trade that we mentioned for the trade that happened with James Harden tonight, that tells me he's not going back to Cleveland. Now, could he go to New York? Maybe, because that's the second biggest market. I mean, in my opinion, there's three iconic franchises. There's the Knicks, the Lakers, and the Celtics. Some will argue the Sixers, but the Sixers, I don't think they've earned that title after going through the process and whatever. But interesting to see. But I don't think he goes anywhere. But remember, all a trade clause is tell me what you have for a trade, and I will tell you whether I agree to it or not. Because if I don't agree to it, I'm not going. That's all it is. So, but so just looking here if anything popped up here. By the way, the Flyers won. Flyers won 4-2, and they have there's an interesting stat with the Flyers this year as we close out the show here. And by the way, perfect timing with the Flyers game and the Sixers that just started in Oakland. I'm sorry, they're in San Francisco. Forgot about that. The Sixers the Flyers are now 8-0 this year. They played 8 games on Tuesday. They've won all 8. And all 8 in regulation, I believe. But either way, that was something that I saw here. And I'm going to share one last thing here, because this may be a topic for next week if I can find it. I probably should have bookmarked it. Okay, here it is. And this is as of a couple of days ago, so I don't think it really changed that much, but it is what it is. But the Vegas Golden Knights are 5th in the division in terms of wins, behind Anaheim, Edmonton, San Jose, and Seattle. I will update that for you, only because of the fact that we have some games that have played today. And also that thing is from a couple of days ago. Whoops, NHL, not NFL. Yeah, Anaheim is 29 right now, Edmonton 28, San Jose 27, Seattle is 26, Vegas has 25. So in terms of wins, they're fifth, but they have 14 overtime and shootout losses this year. They lost 8 games in overtime and they lost 6 more in a shootout. They're 1-6 in shootouts this year. So I don't know about you. I was not a fan of the shootout ahead of time because truthfully, I felt like the shootout, in my opinion, was, in my opinion, finishing a regular season NBA game with free throws or a home run derby in baseball, even though we saw how cool it was in an all-star game. But in terms of hockey, they've already gotten rid of a lot of traditions, like, for example, Canada winning the Stanley Cup once every few years, which, they haven't won in 30-some now. It used to just be in the early 80s before they changed it. The regular season was just a 60-minute game. And, at the end, if the game was tied after 60 minutes, it was a tie. That was it. You did not do any extra time. The only time you did any extra time was, in the playoffs. And, you could be like the Lamb Chop song. This is the game that never ends. And trust me, we've seen a lot of 4 and 5 overtime games within the last 10 years. I mean, even if it's just 2 or 3, it's still a lot of games. But yeah, so I just think the NHL needs to get rid of the shootout because the penalty shot used to be such a rare event. It used to be just like a no-hitter in baseball. It's like, oh my God, yeah, we got a penalty shot here, blah blah blah, and it'd be like, oh my God, what happens here? Things like that. But now, because if you play 65 minutes and you don't have a decision, if you don't have a winner, we got to do this penalty shootout, which, is, it takes away from the game. It takes away from the rare event of a penalty shot in game, in my opinion. But, I know I've been voted down because we can't have ties. Yeah, we can. Ties are good, ties are bad, and sometimes a tie gets you into the playoffs and sometimes it doesn't. But I think what the NHL needs to do, and I know I'm basically giving my whole argument here, I just think the NHL needs to go to 3 points for a win and 1 for a tie. You've already destroyed tradition. What's another thing? But that's just me. But so that is going to be it for this show. A shorter show tonight, but it's okay. I'm going to make a phone call anyway. But I will be live on Thursday at 9 o'clock Eastern. I will give you an answer in regards to also Aljo, because I'm leaning towards a show on Friday because we do have races from Oaklawn and Aqueduct that are Kentucky Derby and Oaks prep races. So, but I do appreciate each and every one of you. Let's do it live on Thursday. And if you're not here on Thursday, join me Saturday morning. Maybe I can give you guys a winner or two. I did go 2 for 3 this week, and hopefully a lot more for you guys. So hope everybody has a great night. Hope everybody stays warm because another dose of cold air is coming to this area. And hope everybody has a great week. And I'll see you guys in the winter circle. Have a great night, everybody.